carrying on from our last topic, we will move into the ways and paths of Alterra. These are something like a tree, with branches and leaves. Where the way is the tree, the paths, the branches, and the abilities they offer are the leaves. Alterra doesn't operate with a traditional class-based system, instead offering flexibility of build via these archetypal ways. While glyphs allow a character access to many supernatural and otherwise fantastic abilities, the ways and paths represent the tried-and-true techniques the denizens of Alterra used in the centuries before glyphs emerged, with a couple of exceptions. Each way embodies an overall archetype, while each path embodies a specialization within that archetype, such as the way of the combatant and the path of the swift, being one who participates in melee combat with a focus on one-handed weapons. Characters may unlock as many ways and paths as they like, so long as they have the experience to afford them, with only limited restrictions applying, specifically in the case of the Way of the Faithful. Remember, a character does not need to purchase any abilities from a way or path in any specific order, unless specifically stated otherwise. Also keep in mind, unless otherwise stated, any ability learned in one way or path may be used with another weapon, type of a different path. For example, should a character have access to the ability Trip from the Path of the Colossus, they would be able to use that skill with other weapons aside from simply a reach weapon. The first way is unique in the fact that all characters have access to it without needing to spend experience to unlock it. The universal way is where core stat increasing options are found, and may be purchased without needing to be learned from another character or treatise. However, do note that while this is the only way where options may be purchased multiple times, with the exception of laws and literacy from a scholar, the experience cost of each ability increases by 1 per purchase of that given ability, to a maximum of 30. So, for example, the universal way, freely accessible to all characters. You have the option to purchase additional health, additional mana, additional focus, or an additional slot. Health, mana, and focus each start with an experience cost of 3, and an additional slot begins with an experience cost of 5. When you purchase additional health, it will grant you 1 health to your torso or both arms or both legs. You choose upon each purchase. So let's say you did so. You purchase +1 health torso. Should you then choose +1 health legs, it would cost you 4 experience, followed by 5, followed by 6, and so on until you reach a cost of 30, after which every purchase of that same thing will cost 30. Now these are individual, remember. So if you purchase additional mana up to the point of it costs 10 experience for the next one, purchasing additional focus, if it's still your first, will only cost you 3 still. Starting with the unlockable ways, we have the Way of the Combatant, which will grant proficiency with melee weapons. Don't worry, we'll get a bit more into proficiency later, but understand that proficiency is needed to fully realize the potential of a given weapon or item. The Way of the Combatant is one of martial prowess and combative resolve. They train and hone their skills with all manner of melee weapons to the peak of physical performance, be it with a single-handed, two-handed, or reach weapon. One who follows the way of the combatant and the paths held therein are sure to be formidable on any battlefield. Should you look at the way and most of the ways presented, you will find that there are some abilities listed before the paths. These are considered the base abilities of that way. For example, we have Strike, Parry, and Fracture. You are welcome to purchase any of these at character creation that you have the experience for, so long as you have unlocked the way. You do not need to purchase Strike, and then Parry, and then Fracture. You could simply take Fracture, and never take Strike or Parry if you wished. It should be noted that the cost of unlocking ways increases. Your first is free. After that, the next way that you learn will cost 10 experience, followed by 15, 20, 25, and so on. However, paths only cost 10, no matter how many you have. Also, every time you unlock a way or a path, you will gain whatever passive is associated with it. In the case of the combatant, you gain proficiency with melee weapons, that being one-handed, two-handed, and reach weapons, being weapons of 60 to 72 inches in length. When you unlock Path of the Swift, it increases your damage dealt with one-handed weapons by 1, which we will move on to now. The first path in the way of the combatant is the Path of the Swift, which, as I mentioned, focuses on one-handed weaponry. I won't go into detail with what every ability does. You can refer to the literature yourself to find that out. I will, however, tell you the name of each ability. The Path of the Swift will increase your damage with one-handed weapons by 1 point. The optional purchases within this path are Disarm, Aiajutsu, Grim Focus, One-Handed Melee Expertise, and Fatal Draw. The second path is the Path of the Titan, which focuses on two-handed weapons. It will increase your damage with two-handed weapons, and the available abilities to purchase within this path are Cleave, Crushing Blow, Focused Attacks, Two-Handed Melee Expertise, and Battlefield Mobility. And finally, we have the Path of the Colossus, which will focus on reach weapons and increase your damage with them by 1. A side note before I continue. A reach weapon is considered a two-handed weapon, which means it will benefit from the passive damage increase of Path of the Colossus as well as Path of the Titan. However, a two-handed weapon is not always a reach weapon. Therefore, if you simply have a weapon that is of maximum two-hand size, not reach, which is 60 inches, you will only gain the benefit of Path of the Titan, or anything else that increases two-handed damage specifically. Back to the Colossus. The abilities available for purchase here are Trip, Sweeping Strikes, Vicious Strike, Polearm Expertise, and Shattering Force. Moving on, we have the Way of the Defender. Those who seek to better themselves for the sake of others choose the Way of the Defender, skilled in the art of endurance, tactics, and interception. Those who dedicate themselves to this way and its paths show undying resolve and a true adherence to their physical staying power. Unlocking this way will grant you proficiency with bucklers, which are small arm-strapped shields. Note that without proficiency with a shield, you will still take half damage of an attack that lands on it. The base abilities available with this way are Deflect, which is a very important defensive ability, Brace, and Persistence. Starting off the paths within the way of the defender, we have the Path of the Bulwark, which will grant you proficiency with shields. The abilities available for purchase within this path are Bash, Steadfast Hold, Ricochet, Resilience Expertise, and Guardian Stats. Up next is the Path of the Conditioned, which will give you proficiency in unarmed combat. The abilities available for purchase in this path are Hardened Fist, Interceptor, Hardened Form, Unarmed Expertise, and Chivalrous Dedication. And finally, the Path of the Adorned. This will improve the value of any worn armor that you wear. The abilities available in this path are Taunt, Vigilance, Maneuverability, Armor Expertise, and Reinforced Plating. Carrying on, we have the Way of the Marksman. For some, the idea of being in the fray mere feet away from an enemy is thrilling. For others, the idea of raining death down upon their foes from afar at a much safer distance is even more appealing. Followers of the Way of the Marksman hone their perception and accuracy to a terrifying degree, often felling foes before they even realized they were under attack. As you may have surmised, the Way of the Marksman will grant you proficiency with ranged weapons, in this case being bows and thrown weapons. The three base abilities available when unlocking this path are Disengage, Perception, allowing you to find stealth and hidden objects or targets within 10 feet, and Spread Shot. Kicking off, we have the Path of the Unerring. This is focused on bows and will grant you +1 damage with them, which is impressive given they already have the highest base damage in Alterra. The abilities available within this path are Steady Shot, Quick Quiver, Sniper's Stats, Bow Expertise, and True Shot. The next is Path of the Nimble, which will increase your damage with thrown weapons. The abilities here are called Up My Sleeve, Fan of Knives, Uncanny Aim, Thrown Weapon Expertise, and Shinobi. Finally, the Path of the Hunter, which will give you an ability, the ability to track. We'll touch on how tracking works mechanically later, but first the abilities you can purchase within this path are Expeditious Retreat, Forestborn, Marked Prey, Hunting Expertise, and Bloodthirsty. Up next is the Way of the Shadowed. The direct approach is not always the best, and followers of the Way of the Shadowed understand that deeply, preferring to stay hidden till the exact right time to strike, and vanishing just as quickly after. The paths within this way favor finesse over strength, and accuracy over brute force, or perhaps a well-placed trap. The Way of the Shadowed is for those of a sneaky lean. You will gain proficiency with small weapons. The three base abilities here are Evasion, Hide, and Elusive. Path of the Cloak is our first shadowed path, and you'll gain the ability to pickpocket. The other abilities for purchase are Waylay, Camouflage, Garrote, Stealth Expertise, and subtlety. Path of the Dagger comes next, allowing you to deal an additional 1 damage with your small weapons. The abilities in this path are Precise Strike, Flanking, Perforation, Small Weapon Expertise, and Ambush. And rounding out the trio is the Path of the Saboteur, which will allow you to craft, set, and disarm traps. The abilities within are Clever Trapper, Soft Step, Surprise Mine, Trap Expertise, and Remote Detonation. Moving on, we come to the first of 2 primarily magic-based ways, which come with another caveat we will cover. The way of the Magister is first, which will grant you proficiency with wands. Mana is all around us. Every living thing possesses it, and followers of the way of the Magister tap into that force to perform great and terrifying acts of arcane might. The old man mulling over musty volumes for weeks on end may not seem dangerous to some, but to those who understand what the paths within this way are capable of, they would do well to respect his power. When learning Magister Path abilities, each path within this way, as with all others, has 5 abilities. The order in which they are unlocked does not matter, as with the others. However, for each ability learned, the character must have the appropriate type and number of spell glyphs attuned. Damaging spells for the evoker, status inflicting spells for the afflictor, and movement spells for the transient. 1 for the first that they learn, 2 for the second, 3 for the third, 4 for the fourth, and 5th for the 5th. The base abilities within the way of the Magister are Counter Spell, Mana Lash, and Deep Contemplation. First we have the Path of the Evoker, which is focused on damage-dealing spells. By unlocking this path, you will increase the damage of your damaging spells by 1. The abilities within it are Spell Splash, Overcharge, Arcing Power, Destruction Expertise, and Student of Destruction. Second, Path of the Afflictor, which upon purchase will cause all status spells you inflict to become grievous. We will cover statuses more later on, but I will let you know now that grievous means it takes twice the number of curing abilities to remove a given status. An example: should you inflict grievous poison, it would require 2 antidotes or purifications to remove. The abilities within this path are Resonating Spell, Spell Echo, Counter Control, Control Expertise, and Student of Control. And last, we have the Path of the Transient, focusing on movement abilities. Upon unlocking this path, you will gain 2 paces to any movement ability that you use. Note, it says ability, not just spell. The abilities that you can purchase within this path are Clearcast, Seize, Farcast, Movement Expertise, and Student of Motion. The Way of the Faithful is the second of the magical ways, and it will grant you proficiency with a tome. While other ways focus on enhancing oneself, In their own right, the Way of the Faithful looks to a higher power for guidance and growth. The power of the light and void are all around us, but only those who follow the paths in this way can truly unlock their mysterious potential. A special note: if a character unlocks the path of light, they may not unlock the path of void or balance. Similarly, if unlocking void, it stops you from taking light or balance. Only a character who takes devotion to Eramil may unlock the path of balance, and in doing so, may never unlock the path of light or void. But fear not. There is a way through which, should you wish to, you can change your path choice. But we'll get into that later on. Similarly with the Magister, when learning faith path abilities, each path in this way has 5 abilities. The order in which they are unlocked matters not. However, for each ability you wish to learn, you must have the appropriate number of light or void glyphs attuned. 1 for the first, 2 for the second, and so on, as with Magister. Note that if you are following the path of balance, 1 light or void glyph will, except for either if you wish to learn the abilities. However, as we get down there, you will find that the path of balance does require you to have an equal number of light and void glyphs attuned to get the most out of it. The abilities base line within the Way of the Faithful are willpower, devotion, which allows you to pick one of the 7 deities and devote yourself to them officially, gaining a proficiency with a holy symbol, as well as their devotion power. Note: you may be a follower of a deity without the devotion ability, but you could not say that you are devoted to that god or goddess. Simply that you believe in them, follow them, worship them. Devotion is its own specific designation. And finally, revival, which allows you to spend 15 minutes and 10 focus and mana to resurrect a soul while at a soul well. The first path we will discuss is the path of the light, which will grant you access to light glyphs. It should be noted that even if you are devoted to a light god, if you lack the path of light or balance, you will not have access to light glyphs, meaning you cannot attune them. The ability list within this path is Bless, Crusader's Blade, Healing Hands, Light Expertise, and Inspiring Presence. Up next, the Path of the Void, which will, similarly to the Path of Light, grant you access to void glyphs. And again, without the path, even if devoted mechanically to a void god, you do not gain access to void glyphs. You must have the path. The abilities within this path are Desecration, Zealot's Blade, Mana Siphon, Void Expertise, and Thirsting Blade. Finally, Path of Balance, which will grant you access to both light and void glyphs. I should remind you, this path requires devotion to Eramil. Simply unlocking the Way of the Faithful does not have a religious connotation. You could be a light mage or a void mage. Faithful simply implies that you believe in the greater forces of light and void. It does not require you to follow a given god. Path of Balance does. You must be religious and follow Eramil to gain its benefit. The abilities in this path are a touch more expensive than other ones, but their powers arguably greater since you gain access to Void and Light. They are Mana Focus, Cheat Death, Twin Paths, which will allow you to pick up an ability from either the Light or Void path, within reason, Balance Expertise, and Duality. The Way of the Scholar is an interesting one. It grants you the ability Transcribe, which will allow you to produce a treatise, which is an in-game book outlining an ability that you know how to do, that somebody else can spend time reading and spend experience to learn from, should there be no applicable teachers around. Not all battlefields are bathed in blood, bone, and brutality. Some are fought in academic institutions, upon paper, with rivers of ink and words as scathing as any spell. The old adage, knowledge is power, is one which continues to be proven true, and none regard that fact as deeply as followers of the Way of the Scholar. This way has 4 base abilities as opposed to the 3 of the others. They are the option of a lore or literacy from the base list of lores and literacies. Note, it only costs 1 experience per, and this may be purchased multiple times. Craft Tome, which allows you to craft a tome. Instructor, and Astute Researcher. First we have the Path of the Doctor, which will grant you the ability Post-Mortem, allowing you to roleplay for an amount of time, spend some focus, doing an autopsy, and then get some answers from a marshal, if one should be nearby, about what it is you're dealing with. You may ask a number of questions. The abilities within this path are Identify Injury, Treat Wound, Resuscitate, Medical Expertise, and Combat Medic. I should also say that while healing glyphs do exist, doctors are very good at what they can do. Specifically, they're the only ones that can mend broken bones outside of a specific elixir made by alchemists. They are extremely useful on the battlefield, being able to quickly get people up from downed, treat bleeding, treat broken limbs, and of course, identify injuries. Up next is the Path of the Venomous, which will grant the ability Circumspect, allowing you to, briefly, handle items coated in poison. The abilities within this path are Lacing, Coating, Inundating, Venom Expertise, and Poisonous Practitioner. This path is all about utilizing poisons, which are illegal in Alterra. Possessing them or using them can lead to legal troubles. Up next is the Path of the Locksmith, which will grant you the ability to craft locks, and of course keys for the locks you make. The abilities within should be self-explanatory. Pick Basic Lock, pick Advanced Lock, pick Mastercraft Lock, Lock Picking Expertise, and Master Locksmith. Up next on our list is the Way of the Gatherer. Alterra has an entire gathering system, which will be touched on more in depth later. But taking this way will grant you the ability to carry +1 node. That's N-O-D-E. What is a node? Why, it's what you gather. You gather a node outside somewhere and bring it back to craft logistics, and you can roll for some goods depending on what the node is. Baseline, players may only carry 1 node at a time. The various abilities within the Way of the Gatherer and its paths improve that. Also, again, it will be covered later on, but the base time it requires to gather a node is 10 minutes. For as crucial as the smith is to the warrior, for as important the alchemist is to the rogue, for as vital the aspirants are to the church, so too are the followers of the way of the gatherer so deeply entwined with those who supply others with crafted goods. For without the skills and dedication of the people who devote themselves to these paths, all our lives would be made that much harder. The base abilities here are Geologist, Botanist, and Ecologist, each referencing one of the 3 nodes. The paths in this way are the Path of the Rock, which allows you to carry an additional mineral node. And the abilities are Ore Seeker, Gemstone Seeker, Crystal Seeker, Mineral Divination, and Miner's Backpack. Followed by the Path of the Plant, which, as you might have guessed, allows you to carry an additional Botany node. The abilities within are Herb Seeker, Lumber Seeker, Textile Seeker, Botanical Divination, and Naturalist's Satchel. And last in this way is the Path of the Rare, allowing you to carry 1 additional organic node. The abilities here are Marrow Seeker, Leather Seeker, Essence Seeker, which is very important, Unique Divination, and Mystic's Tote. Finally, we come to the final 3 ways within each 3 paths, as per normal, but these 3 are the crafting ways. First we have the Way of the Alchemist, which will grant you the ability Germinate, allowing you to replicate a plant material every so often. The Way of the Alchemist is more like science. Exact measurements of carefully chosen compounds mixed together under just the right conditions to produce an effect, or more commonly, a substance with a desired outcome. Too much or too little of something, and the result could be catastrophic. The alchemist is a master of mixology, always experimenting to find the next great discovery. Learning crafting abilities, all characters may purchase apprentice-level abilities as they like, of course, once they unlock the path, of course. However, in order to be eligible to learn the next higher tier of crafting abilities, the character must have learned at least half, rounded up where applicable, of the previous tier's abilities. For example, the Path of Hermetics has 3 apprentice-level recipes, which means in order to move on to learning journeyman recipes, you must have 2 out of 3 of those recipes known. But the base abilities for the Way of the Alchemist are only 2: Assistant and Lab Assistant. Up first, Path of Hermetics, granting the ability Make Do. I will cover the 3 path abilities at the end. They require a touch more explanation. The apprentice level recipes are Hard Body Tonic, Chameleon Tonic, and Healing Potion. There will be another audio video you can refer to, going over the crafting professions in more detail. For Journeyman, we have Marrow Grow Tonic, Liquid Courage, and Focus Potion. The Artisan level crafts are Elixir of Clarity, Elixir of Sixth Visions, and Mana Potion. And finally, the Expert level recipes are the Elixir of Rejuvenation, Enhancement, Enhanced Concoction, and Enhancement, Potent Potable. Path of Incendiaries is next, and grants the ability Grenadier. The apprentice level incendiary plans are Fire Stick, Incendiary Bomb, and Flashbang. For Journeyman, we have Needle Bomb, Focused Impact Charge, and Tasing Charge. The Artisan plans include Concussive Bomb, Force Bomb, and Shrapnel Shell, which is an enhancement. Finally, the 3 expert level recipes. Enhancement Packed Powder, Enhancement Enhanced Volatility, and Enhancement Sinister Chemistry. The last of the alchemical paths is the Path of Toxicology, granting the ability Natural Remedy. The apprentice level recipes are Asp's Kiss, Antidote, and Instant Poison. The Journeyman recipes: Lucid Poison, Vile Poison, and Lingering Poison. The Artisan recipes: Paralysis Poison, Sleep Poison, Magebane Poison. And for the experts: Enhancement Wicked Cocktail, Enhancement Overwhelming Potency, and Enhancement Heightened Dosage. I will remind you again, being caught with poisons is highly illegal. As for the abilities, Make Do allows you to substitute one material for another of the same type and potency for any alchemical craft of artisan level or lower. No effect on essence. Grenadier reduces the concentration time when using incendiaries. And Natural Remedy allows you to cure yourself of any status you're able to craft into a poison by consuming one of the specialized materials used in its creation. The second crafting way, and the second to last way in our list, is the way of the Inscriptionist. A relatively new, mostly, way in Alterra. One of the 3 has been around for a very long time, and is the oldest form of magic in the world. It will grant you Leyline Attunement, the newest and possibly most mysterious of the crafting ways. The techniques of the Inscriptionist and its paths are still being expanded upon and learned about by scholars every day. More than just a study of language and symbols, the 3 paths of this way are, essentially, to anyone who uses glyphs, vital, and would seek to grow in strength. The 2 base abilities are Assistant and Lay Assistant. The initial path is the Essence Weaver, granting the ability Extract Essence. The 3 apprentice level techniques are Common Deconstruction, Low Quality Wand, and Economy of Essence. Moving on to Journeyman, we have 4 techniques: Greater Infusion, Weave Crude Essence, Greater Deconstruction, and Moderate Quality Wand. For Artisan, we have Empowered Infusion, Weave Refined Essence, Empowered Deconstruction, High Quality Wand, and Essence Expertise. And finally, the 5 expert level. Transcendent Infusion, Weave Fortified Essence, Transcendent Deconstruction, Superior Wand, and Essence Mastery. Next is the oldest form of magic in Alterra, the Path of the Ritualist, which will grant you Harmonic Soul. These are the most in-depth of any craft ability, depending. Some of them require you to be at a soul well, others require that you somehow present, whether it be drawing or having something with it drawn on it already, various specific circles, along with a list of materials. The apprentice level rituals are the ritual of attunement, the ritual of unattunement, and the ritual of transmutation. Rituals of attunement and unattunement for a ritualist are vital. They are useful for every player in Alterra, as glyphs will be crucial to success at various points in the game. The journeyman rituals are the ritual of concentration, the ritual of the gateway, and the ritual of shifting elements. The artisan level rituals are the ritual of the bound soul, the ritual of the pure soul, and ritual of the devoted path, which is the means through which you may change a path choice from the way of the faithful. Note that this may only be received at most every 6 months. And finally, the expert rituals. The ritual of melding, the ritual of chronoslumber, and the ritual of latent awakening. Finally, we have the path of the rune scribe, which will grant the ability Crystal Transmorph. The apprentice level abilities: common runic research, technique common glyph construction, common deconstruction, and low-quality arcane stave. The journeyman techniques are greater runic research, greater glyph construction, greater deconstruction, moderate quality arcane stave, and basic crystal fusion. For artisan, we have empowered runic research, empowered glyph construction, and empowered deconstruction, high-quality arcane stave, and advanced crystal fusion. Finally, expert level. Transcendent runic research, transcendent glyph construction, transcendent deconstruction, superior quality arcane stave, and mastercraft crystal fusion. I didn't really mention it at the start, but when playing a rune scribe, you must have a codex, which is a book or some form of collection of approved glyph research from which a rune scribe may produce glyphs. A character that takes rune scribing at creation may choose 3 glyphs from the starting glyph list to begin with play with them in their codex, and therefore craftable given the right material. The abilities granted by the various paths. You begin with Leyline Attunement, allowing you to perform any way of the Inscriptionist craft without needing a craft station or soul well once every 20 hours. Extract Essence, allowing you to pull essence, the material, out of other materials, but this will destroy it. Harmonic Soul, reducing the cooldown restriction of Ritual of Unattunement on yourself by 8 hours, which is normally a 20-hour cooldown. And Crystal Transmorph, converting crystal into gemstones, and gemstones into crystals. This brings us to the final way, and the third of the 3 crafts, the Way of the Smith, which will grant you the ability to smelt. A seasoned warrior may think they know the sound of ringing steel and relish in its resonance, but they know nothing compared to those who follow the way of the smith. The art of these paths, be it weapon, armor, or jewel, is as much a test of skill and wits as any battlefield. It is said, a true smith puts a bit of themselves into every project they complete. The 2 abilities, in the base way are Assistant and Forge Assistant. We begin with the Path of the Armorsmith, granting you self-reliant armorer. There are only 2 apprentice patterns: low-quality armor craft and low-quality armor repair. I will go over crafting, specifically armor and weapon crafting, in a later section, as it is quite in-depth in Alterra. The other crafts, such as hermetics and incendiaries and whitesmithing and even rune scribing, toxicology, they are much more straightforward than armor or weapon smithing. Moving on to Journeyman, we have moderate quality armor craft and moderate quality armor repair. Next at Artisan we have 3. High quality armor craft, high quality armor repair, and armor crafting expertise, allowing low and moderate quality armor components to be crafted using special materials in addition to their base. Again, this will be covered later on in another video. Finally, the expert level armor smithing patterns. Superior quality armor craft, superior quality armor repair, and armor crafting mastery. The way of the weaponsmith comes second, granting self-reliant armsman. Again, you gain the option to purchase low-quality weapon craft and low-quality weapon repair. At Journeyman, moderate quality weapon craft and moderate quality weapon repair. At Artisan, high quality weapon craft and high quality weapon repair, and weapon crafting expertise. And in Expert, superior quality weapon craft, superior quality weapon repair, and weapon crafting mastery. The final path in our long list has quite the interesting array of things it can produce. The Path of the Whitesmith grants you the ability to prospect. As an apprentice, you have the ability to learn the design of a talisman of armor, which is a small object that can be placed into a socket in worn armor once a socket has been applied, and grants a benefit, in this case, additional armor. Design low-quality instrument, which is needed to use bardic spellcasting. Design basic skill gem. A skill gem is essentially a one-time use glyph. They have certain crafting restrictions, and once made, are put into a socket. Once socketed, they can be invoked, similarly to a glyph would be, but they crumble to dust afterwards. And finally, design holy symbol, which creates a holy symbol, which is useful to those who follow devoted ways within the way of the faithful. At Journeyman, we have a Talisman of Focus, granting additional focus, moderate quality instrument, an advanced skill gem, a simple trinket. In this case, the trinket may be roleplay-wise, phys-rep, whatever you like, but mechanically, it allows you to make a small item that, when soulbound via the ritual of soulbinding, grants the character an additional +1 slot. But note that you may not have more than one of the same trinket soulbound. And finally, moderate armor socket, which does mean the lowest level of armor that can bear a socket is moderate. In Artisan, we have Talisman of Mana, granting mana, high quality instrument, mastercraft skill gem, modest trinket, which grants 2 slots instead of 1, and high armor socket, high quality armor socket. In Expert, we have Talisman of Health, granting additional health in the location, superior quality instrument, Outstanding Skill Gem, an Ornate Trinket, which grants 3 slots, and Superior Armor Socket. Finally, the abilities. Smelt allows you to combine any 2 different special material metals into a single special metal after 5 minutes of concentration once every 20 hours. Self-Reliant Armorer reduces the amount of materials needed to repair your personal armor by 50%. Self-Reliant Armsman does the same thing for your weapon. And Prospecting, converting ore into gemstones. And craft logistics for a certain exchange rate, of course. I hope that this overview of the ways and paths has been enlightening. Moving on, we will discuss the actual glyphs themselves in deeper detail before moving on through the rest of this rule book. Until we meet again, traveler.